Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy T for 365 Horror, and this is a horror movie discovery channel. I am just here to put as many horror movies on your watch list as possible. And in today's video, we are going to be looking at 7 brand new releases for you guys to watch and stream today. So let's get into it right now. Now we are going to get into the video, but before we do, I've got to remind you guys to please like and subscribe if you like this content. Also, this video is best watched with a movie tracker. I like to use Letterboxd. It's just the easiest way to keep track of the movies that you've seen and want to see. And lastly, these are just a preview. These are not reviews and recommendations. If you did want to see some reviews and recommendations, then I suggest you watch my Every Movie I Watched in a Month series, my You Should Watch series, or any of my movie list series. This is just a little something for the diehards like me that are always looking for something new to watch. And with that, let's get right into the video. So the first thing I want to cover in this video is just a small caveat about the availability of these titles. Now, depending on what region you're in, the availability may vary. So yes, there is a small chance that if you're in somewhere like Canada and you don't have access to a VPN, then some of these titles might not be seeable to you. Even movies that are released on Prime, sometimes they're just region locked. So if you're like me and you have other options or avenues to kind of find and stream these movies, they still will be generally available if you're in the United States or Canada. But if you don't have a VPN and you are in Canada and some of the movies are region locked, then I still suggest, the reason why I say to have your watch list is put these movies on your watch list and just check back. Sometimes Canada has different release dates. Again, I am just going with the wider release, especially because I can access it. And lastly, every once in a while, even though I do have several levels of checks that I do with these movies, they do get pulled, the dates get changed, and that's why I don't really do like look aheads anymore. So if there ever is a case that you don't have immediate access to any of these titles, or I make a mistake, I truly am sorry. I am human. I am just doing the best that I can. So I hope that that helps us really rein in and make sure that these movies are available to as many people as possible right away. And the second quick topic I wanted to cover was, I noticed in one of the comments in the last video that someone said that I only handle theatrical releases, and I'm not sure exactly what they meant. I don't know if they meant like actually in the theater or theatrical releases to the point where you have to pay, because a lot of these movies are rent. Yeah, I just look for the newest movies. I'm not really concerned about whether or not you have to rent them. Again, like I said, and I am not advocating this, but there are tons of places where you can still find this material, but I just want to watch the newest. If we narrowed it down to something like only Tubi, Netflix, and Shudder, some weeks there would be no movies. So I'm just trying to cast the widest net. Again, I'm sorry that some of these movies are locked behind a paywall. A lot of people have sources, which I am not advocating on using, where you don't have to pay as much. So just a small warning that I am focusing on the newest releases that just came out this week, regardless, that are streaming, because streaming's important. You know me, I'm part of the no stream team, home stream team. You know what I mean? I'm only at home. I don't really go to the movies that often. I just like to be at home. I have curricular activities that I like to partake in, which are legal where I am. So, you know, you can't really do that in the theater. So I prefer home streaming myself, which is why I centered my channel around something that I'm more passionate about, which is movies I can watch from home. The newest movies I can watch from home immediately. But with that stuff out of the way, let's just get to what everybody's here for, and that is the new releases. So the first movie I have for you guys this week is a straight horror called Hauntology, and it's available on VOD Digital. An older sister takes her fearless runaway sibling on a road trip to share the most chilling tales surrounding their hometown. It is directed by Parker Brennan. Okay, so after watching the trailer for Hauntology, this looks like a little bit of a middle-of-the-road supernatural anthology horror. Now, when it comes to anthologies, sometimes this stuff is hard to judge because I'm not sure that we're exactly getting a clean narrative when the trailer is only showing us bits and pieces from various stories. It looks like this movie does attempt some creeps and scares, which is really good, and I didn't really see much as far as gore in the trailer. Now, with an anthology film, I always do like to give them a chance because there's always just that chance that amongst the various stories, you could get some like a real banger that's scary or weird and makes the entire movie worth it. Now, the acting and the story for the film looked passable. Granted, what we're seeing in the trailer is the root story, and by root story of an anthology, I mean sometimes in an anthology, they can actually have a cohesive narrative, like they move to a new house and as they go room to room, they're discovering things which kicks up a story or some sort of historical something, as opposed to the anthologies where someone's just walking through a crypt, picks up a book, and reads various stories. In the case of this movie, we see a lot of the main characters doing different things, so I can only believe that it's going to follow one cohesive narrative. It doesn't look too bad, and I'm definitely going to keep my fingers crossed for at least one banger, and Hauntology is going to get a regular spot on my watch list.
My house is haunted.
I can't stay here. There's no reason to be afraid.
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a horror mystery thriller called Cuckoo, and it's available on VOD Digital.
Consider yourself lucky.
A 17-year-old girl is forced to move with her family to a resort where things are definitely not what they seem. It is directed by Tillman Singer. Okay, after watching the trailer for Cuckoo, this looks like an alright teen horror. Now, I'm not exactly sure what we're seeing here with supernatural, but from what I did see that was supernatural or her psychotic type visions, it definitely looked like creepy scenes that were unsettling. Now, the acting and the budget on this one look good, so no problems there. It's just that from the elements we saw in the trailer, I didn't exactly see anything that really jumped out at me. Now, on the bright side, I was interested in a little bit of the mystery I saw in this story. I mean, sure, I want to see what's going on with this resort and all the weird things going on there, and it does look like we get some dark stuff in it. Now, even though the movie doesn't look overly bloody, I feel like if we get some good kind of paranoia tension, this one could still be a good watch. All in all, Cuckoo looks okay and will get a regular spot on my watch list.
How would you like to come work for me at the resort?
This happens sometimes.
Next, we're going to take a look at another straight horror called No Voltees, and this one's available on Tubi. When two siblings return to their childhood home, they are confronted by a violent supernatural presence that dwells deep within their worst traumas. It is directed by Alejandro Hidalgo. After watching the trailer for Voltees, this looks like a good Spanish supernatural horror. Now, right off the bat, I could tell this movie was going to have some good creeps and scares, so that's something that I am looking forward to. Now, the acting and the production in this one definitely looks good, and I really liked some of the more supernatural visions she got of what seemed to be her zombified mother and her dead father. Even from the trailer, some of the jump scares definitely look decent, even though some were a little cliche. Like, I really like the imagery where there's like kind of someone unsuspecting, and then you usually get someone who's possessed or under evil influence or had a psychotic break, and they kind of do the whole like they walk quickly behind them, usually like naked or something. And although that scene can still like dredge up some creepiness from me from time to time, I'm sure that we all can agree that that has been done to death. Though I will say that the mother looks like she plays a great psychotic break and definitely does weird, creepy things in this trailer. No Voltees looks like a decent horror movie and will get a regular spot on my watch list.
Quito a mi papá de todas las fotos, que su demencia está poniendo peor.
Hola, ma.
Mi hijita.
Es triste ver la casa así, ¿no?
Sí, desde que se murió mi papá nadie le ha hecho nada. Se murió hace 24 años.
¿No piensas servirle a tu papá?
Next movie we're going to take a look at is a crime horror mystery called Invoking Yell, and this one's available on VOD Digital. Set in the 1990s, this is a story of three 20-something women who venture into the woods to shoot a demo tape for their black metal band. It is directed by Patricio Valladares. Okay, after watching the trailer for Invoking Yell, I've got to say that this looks like a somewhat interesting found footage film. Now, looking at my hairline, you can definitely tell I'm old school, so I did grow up in the Satanic Panic era, so I actually like the premise, and it speaks to me about a suicidal black metal band going into the forest to record a tape and maybe conjuring some sort of demons or devils. I'm definitely from the era that when I was a little kid, it was like a big conspiracy that if you took like many of the rock albums that were a little bit before my generation and like spun them backwards, you would hear satanic messages. Now, even though I'm not exactly into heavy metal, I still like it when people go through like extenuating, disturbing lengths to channel and create their art. Also, I can't lie, I did find the idea that it was an all-female black metal band as a trait in the movie that was actually somewhat unique. Now, yes, we have to admit that it is another forest found footage, but I'm feeling that the premise and the way that they're going to kind of be conjuring these demons through songs may give us a different look on some spooky woods action. Plus, conjuring up something evil at night in the dark-ass woods definitely leaves us for plenty of opportunity for good creeps and scares. Now, I always want to love a found footage, and I feel like it's always a gamble whether they're going to beat us over the head with the mundane dealings of the characters for the first 3/4 of the movie, but I do like the premise, I do have some faith, so I am going to give Invoking Yell a regular to higher spot on my watch list.
Depressive suicidal black metal. Vamos a registrar psicofonías, además de gritos en el bosque. Será nuestro reino.
So next we're going to take a look at another straight horror movie called Lord of Wolves, and this one's available on VOD Digital, or more specifically Fandango at Home, which used to be Vudu.
We don't need to join you!
When his housemate dies under mysterious circumstances, Nick Cross inherits a mysterious pyramid-shaped contraption left at the scene, unwittingly summoning a cult of wolf people who dwell in the dark underbelly of London. As Nick's path crosses with 3 troubled strangers, they must unite to defeat the Lord of Wolves before they're transformed into one of his beastly pack. It is directed by Charlie Steeds. Okay, after watching the trailer for Lord of Wolves, unfortunately this one looks like a bit of a subpar werewolf movie. Nowadays especially, I find that werewolf movies are just such a hit or miss for me, and this one doesn't look like it's gonna break that trend. Now, although I didn't see anything in the ways of creeps or scares in the trailer, we did get some semi-decent gore/gross stuff like a bunch of saliva and just some other little gore elements. Now, the acting is definitely one of the low points in this trailer, and I feel like when we watch a werewolf movie, we want to see something that's steeped in a little bit of action, and when you saw the action scenes in the trailer, they just look badly choreographed and hokey. Now, the death blow for Lord of Wolves is that the wolf people look ridiculously bad. And I'm talking about so bad that I had to go back and reread the synopsis just to make sure that I was seeing the right movie because I almost didn't really see a wolf in it. To be completely honest, Lord of Wolves is definitely on some shaky ground, and unless I get some really good feedback for this one, I might have to skip it on my watch list.
Do you know what this is? Death. It is but a game.
I'm seeing things hard. I get the feeling there's somebody in the house.
We rule this city from the shadows.
You've seen him.
I think I'm going crazy.
Summon me!
Next, we're going to take a look at a horror thriller called Last Straw, and this movie is available on VOD Digital. A small-town killing spree lands on the doorstep of a rural diner, where a young waitress must fight for her life over the course of one long night. It is directed by Alan Scott Neal. Okay, after watching the trailer for Last Straw, this looks like a decent to good home invasion type slasher. Now, while I did feel that the villain aesthetic definitely borrowed a little too much from a movie like The Strangers, I did appreciate the little change-up of setting. Now, like I've said in the past, home invasion horrors, they don't really hold very many creeps or scares for me, but when I do see a movie like this, what I do see is a lot of tension and close calls. The acting and the budget in this one looks good, and it looks like we get a decent amount of gore and violence. Now, I did like that the home invasion element of this movie was a diner in which an employee is working the night shift, as I do feel like we're going to get a bevy of creative kills with a bunch of implements. You got knives, you got machinery, you got fryers, so that is something to look forward to. I'm hoping that in the end that the setting can provide a lot of good kills, and so they'll introduce a lot of good victims to really ramp up the tension. I actually think that Last Straw looks like a really good watch with my girl, as she's the biggest fan of thriller horrors, so it's definitely going to get a regular spot on my watch list.
They're out there and they're messing with me. I'm all alone here. Did you hear anything I just said?
Yep. You're here all by yourself.
Lastly, we're going to finish today's episode with one more straight horror called Voice of Shadows, and this movie is available on VOD Digital. A young working-class woman stands to inherit an estate if she and her boyfriend abide by a set of bizarre stipulations. It is directed by Nicholas Bain. After watching the trailer for Voice of Shadows, this looks like a very middle-of-the-road, supernatural religious horror. Now, even though this movie isn't really set in a religious place like a convent, I feel like we get just so much religious imagery from the logo of the movie to the numerous church scenes that I still find it valid to call it that. Now, the acting in the movie was just middle of the road. I mean, it wasn't exactly a masterclass, but I have seen way cheesier for sure. Now, from the looks of the trailer, this movie is going to try to give us creeps and scares, which I mean, I do appreciate. It's just, again, the only elements they show are the most cliche ones known in history. The one that I mean is overdone. It can be effective, but it's just very overdone, is when you have the one character and he's in the dark and he's flicking the lighter and it's like flick, flick, and the monster's like right there. So again, that's just one of the kind of horror elements that I feel has been done to death. Now, even though most times it comes off cliche, from time to time it still can be an effective jump scare. Even though in the trailer it looked like the character was definitely covered in blood and bloody at parts, I just didn't see much as far as like gore, so I can't see this movie being a gore fest. With its subpar acting and some of the more cliche scare elements, Voice of Shadows looks like a movie that is watchable, but is still only going to get a regular to lower spot on my watch list.
I just moved out here. My girlfriend inherited a house. Her house is corrupted, Father.
Blasphemy!
Let's just stay for tonight.
Well, guys, that's going to do it for another episode of brand new releases for you to watch and stream. I hope you found some good movies for your watch list, and if you did find something you liked, please leave the video a like and subscribe. Now, if I had to make a couple of picks this week, the first movie I would pick is Invoking Yell. Again, I really just like the premise. I like the satanic panic element. It's even set in the 90s, so it definitely kind of takes me back. And I do like the premise of just like a dark metal female band kind of trying to be creepy. I don't know how to explain it. Like when I knew a lot of people who were kind of into the more darker metal back in the day, they always were trying to like do some ritualistic creepiness. So it's only fitting that these girls go into the forest and try to film some sort of demo. I just thought that the movie looked good with an original premise, so that is definitely one I'm looking forward to for sure. And if I had to make another pick this week, it's definitely going to have to go with the big blockbuster, just because I do like to see them all, because I mean, these are supposed to be the pinnacle of the genre, and that movie is going to be Cuckoo. So the main reason I'm going to go with Cuckoo this week is because the movie just looks creepy, especially if some of her visions end up being kind of supernatural in nature. It just had a really creepy look. I thought the budget and everything looked really good in the movie, and it's the other movie I'd pick this week. Well, guys, if you made it to this part in the video, thank you so much. I've got to get out of here as I have got a ton of movies to watch. I hope you guys have been well and taking care of yourselves, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Make sure to bring that fat bottom back to Fat Bottom Bistro again soon.